All right. I am officially welcoming you to the update call for the March 2017 Vista Blend. This is Amy in Portland, and we have Bethany here as well. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
And we're just going to march through all these changes, and feel free to ask questions as we go. So I found a new study that says viewing nature pictures significantly improves executive attention in adults. So we have sprinkled some nature images throughout to support your attention span, although we know this content is going to be riveting. Today we're just going to talk about what's new. We'll do an overview of the curriculum, a course overview. We'll talk about the new completion policy. And related to that, we'll talk about member follow-up. We'll talk about grading, and then we'll have Q&A throughout, but we'll definitely have time at the end. So I'll just go ahead and jump in here. So some of the big picture changes we have, the PSO blend now consists of a 3-week period where you'll be interacting with your VISTA members, and then a 1-week admin period where you'll have time to get your final grades and do any follow-up. So the members will be active for 3 of the 4 weeks. With that, we've updated the curriculum to meet that 3-week schedule, and we've refined the deadlines for grading and reporting, and I think the theme there is there's a lot of grading and reporting. So beginning in January with the January 30th group, all assignments, webinars, and meetups are now required of VISTA members. If they miss a meetup, there's a makeup assignment that they're required to do. And in general, the stakes are just a lot higher now because deselection from VISTA is now a possibility if they don't complete their course activities. So with that, we have tracking and reporting, and we'll talk about that in a minute. To help support that new policy, communication with the members and the supervisors has been increased. We're now sending the guide to entering service, which there's a copy of that in your classrooms, to all supervisors. So when a member is signed up for Blend, their supervisor and their project director, if they're part of a multi-site project, receive a copy of that guide. And then the VISTA training unit is also working with the supervisors and the state offices to improve communication and help share this information about the importance of completing all assignments and activities in the Blend. They offered a webinar for supervisors and state offices. I think it was in January, so more training has occurred. And then the big one, and we'll talk about this, is that when members do miss an assignment or a meetup, we will have you all send them an email and copy their state office, their project director, their supervisor, and the VISTA training coordinator. So everyone will know if they miss an assignment.
What about their parents? Maybe we should add that.
Well, and Scott suggested maybe their 2nd grade teacher might be a good idea.
I would like to notify their pets as well.
Right. So, I mean, it's a big deal. Obviously, it's a serious business, and I think the way that Patrick framed this is if someone didn't show up for the in-person breakout session at PSO, they would be tracking them down, knocking on their hotel room door, and trying to find them. And so this is the same kind of concept in a virtual way. So that's sort of where we're at. And then the last thing about the big changes is that we, in order to make more of a connection between the facilitator and the class, the curriculum designers have asked that we record new videos. And basically these new intro videos that you guys will record are a mashup of your minute intro, as well as just an overview of the first week of the blend and some information about what to expect. So it's sort of like your State of the Union for the VISTA blend. So we'll ask that you, if you have editing skills and you can merge your minute intro and your overview, great. If not, you'll need to re-record your minute intro and your course overview. And per usual, Bethany and I put a script for you to use feel free to adapt it, but there's obviously something for you to follow to do that. So that's something you can do anytime because it goes in your profile, but that's a new thing for this time around. Okay, before I move on, let me just pause. Any questions about the big picture? We're going to go into detail, but anything off the bat?
Not for me.
Great. Okay, so let's take a look at the week by week of the course. So a lot of this looks similar. It's definitely condensed compared to the 4-week classes. The curriculum team really has been striving to make the assignments more meaningful and integrated with what the VISTAs are doing in their first few weeks on site. So they're just continuing to really seek ways to make the curriculum engaging and also a way for the supervisors to kind of see how this makes the link. One of the strategies that they're doing is they're asking us to create triads of members for certain assignments where the members will then be expected to interact with their small group. And we're trying to do this to help build more personal connections for the cohort. And then also there's a section where they'll do some peer feedback on their minute intro, and I'll talk about that in just a second. Specifically, the 7 Things About Me assignment has been revised, and it prompts VISTAs to make the first of 2 things, their focus area and their primary activity as a VISTA. And then the reason for this change is it's going to help them, we hope, connect more deeply with their peers who have similar focus areas and activities. And then also you guys can use this information to create your triad if you want to put people with similar focus areas together, and also for other assignments. And I think it also helps you see where the intersections might be for that course grid you'll put together, showing all the different focus areas as well. We're also introducing the theory of change at the outset of the blend via reading and key definitions, and they're weaving the theory of change concepts in through other activities, particularly in the OSOT, the VAD, and the 13 lessons assignments. Theory of change is a theme. And the rationale here is that if the members understand the theory of change that's guiding their work, this may help them make connections in a more meaningful way to both the VAD and longer-term goal of reducing poverty and making an impact for their projects. OSOT has been revised to help the VISTAs get the most out of their orientation and training. So the VISTAs will download a checklist in week 1 to guide their conversations and explorations throughout the blend. And then they'll submit a reflection worksheet at the end of the 3-week period. So that'll be the revised OSOT assignment. And then the revisions to the minute intro, the key changes there are that the facilitators will now assign the VISTAs to triads, and they'll be asked to provide feedback on their peers' minute intro. So they'll have to provide feedback to 2 other people. And the idea is to deepen the feedback and make it, more meaningful for VISTA. They'll be asked to respond and provide feedback from the point of view of a funder, a partner organization, or a volunteer. So it mirrors a lot of what we're already doing in person, but it gives them a framework for providing that feedback. And it also allows them to get a little more guidance other than that video. And then the VAD assignment's been revised to reinforce the link between the VAD and the mission of VISTA and a specific anti-poverty focus on the assignment. So in addition to a revised worksheet that prompts deeper discussion about the VAD with the supervisor, it also gives the VISTA the chance to view and reflect on a series of videos highlighting VISTA. There's some videos now in that VAD section. And it shows focus areas through those videos. So that we hope the addition of some of these videos will help them get a better grasp of the concept capacity building by seeing some concrete examples through multimedia. And all of this is in the facilitator guide, so don't worry if you don't get it all just now. So in week 2, they'll have their webinars in week 1 with Vista, and then in week 2, they'll do their first meetup with you. We have revised the meetups just slightly from the last round in November to reflect some of the curriculum changes. In general, they retain and expand on the new, new approach we did in the fall. And we've provided some different reflection questions that they'll consider ahead of time. So the reflection questions posted next to meetup information in the course. There has not been any change to the community profile assignment. That remains the same. And for 13 lessons, what we've done first, we've broken that assignment up into 3 parts to make it a little more digestible, manageable. We're asking the members to reflect on the video kind of in these 3 areas instead of all at once. So rather than creating a visual representation like we used to have, Vistas will now respond to forum posts to complete their reflections on various 3 segments. And then there's one of those forum posts which they'll respond to their triad I'm reading some notes. They'll respond to their triad, who they worked with in the intro. And then also the new 13 lessons assignment, or the revamped assignment, loops back again to that theory of change that we talked about in the beginning and prompts the Vistas to reflect on how their organization's theory of change works to address the structural causes of poverty that were shown in the video. So far, the feedback on that breaking up the assignment has been very well received, and the facilitator from January really thought it worked well. I'm going kind of fast, so interrupt me if you need to.
Amy, this is Katie. And I just want to see if anybody else is having connectivity problems. Like, I am having some serious issues, and I'm just not sure if it's me or WebEx or what.
Are you or audio?
Both, actually.
For me, it's just, for me, it's just audio. It's a little choppy.
Okay.
You got them dialed back in, or what do you think?
I'm not sure.
Is it there now? I'm using a different mic. Is that any better? Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more?
Let me try this mic. And I apologize, you guys. I don't know what's going on with the audio. If it continues, let me know. I could hang up and call back in and see if that helps it.
No, that seems to be better.
Okay, so maybe it's the mic I was using. Let me try this one, and I'll hold it closer. See, this is good practice for me because you guys have to go through this all the time. Okay, moving on to week 3. So in week 3, there's a new final assignment. It's called Looking Forward, and it's been added in a time where the Vistas will reflect on and strategize how they'll maintain their energy, motivation, and commitment throughout the ups and downs of their service year. So basically, the Vistas will write and post a letter to themselves and also be prompted to reread this letter periodically throughout their service year. And then they're also asked to read and respond to fellow Vistas letters as well. And I will just say a question that came up in January, some of these responses are optional. So just be aware of that. They are optional, and sometimes people don't always participate, but we're hoping that because we're putting them in triads, there'll be some peer pressure for folks to respond to their teammates. But in most cases, in all cases, the responses are not graded. So just FYI, that may come up. Okay, let's take a look at the final admin week. So basically week 4 is your time to round up anybody that might be missing assignments, and then the final grading deadline for you guys is 9 o'clock Pacific time on Wednesday of week 4. And that's pretty much it. We ask that you kind of keep an eye on things throughout the end of week 4, and then after that, if people turn anything in, we'll be monitoring the courses after that. So, any questions so far? I just want to know where the speech is and how I can get there. Okay, I will move on then. So now we're moving into this business around the completion policy, and
can I interrupt you real quick?
Sure.
I'm sorry, it took me a second to think through my questions, and I'm sorry if you mentioned this, but the things that you have listed seem to take out a lot of the sort of fun forum and sharing posts. Am I understanding that correctly, or does that also still exist elsewhere?
The weekly posts.
Oh, I think those still exist as far as, no, they don't, the weekly posts where they interact with each other based on a prompt?
Right.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
so Bethany says those are out. I'm sorry, I'm not as familiar with the curriculum as I probably should be. But they still have the 7 things that they do in the beginning. It just also includes their focus area. And then they are suggested that they interact with each other more. But they're still welcome. If you want to start a conversation or post a prompt, you guys are welcome to do that. I just think that they were trying to make things a little tighter because of the time period.
Yeah, I mean, those were the things that I felt like were really loose. That I thought there was real connection and learning to be had, but because they weren't required, it was like constant prodding for them to do something optional while also prodding them to do the things that they were supposed to be doing. So I think that makes sense in terms of streamlining stuff.
Yeah, I mean, most people weren't even, you post those prompts and people barely interacting. I think that idea was let's take that out and then try to add more of that interaction into webinars, the meetups. So that's kind of the thinking. But once the facilitator guide is ready, which it'll be ready next Tuesday, you guys can take a look and let us know if you have questions, and you'll be able to also look at a sample of the course. Is the audio a little better?
Mostly, it got a little choppy for a second, but then it cleared back up.
I think it might be WebEx audio maybe not working well, so I'll try to slow down just a little bit. So then completion policy, as we mentioned, everything, the 2 webinars that Vista offers, the 2 meetups, and completion of assignments, there are 8 assignments total, are all required for Vistas to remain in the program and to avoid deselection. So I know I don't have to say this to you guys, but it's just really important that we send reminders and get our grades done on time, because they're continually looking at, did the person turn it in within the time period? And we'll talk about that more in a second. So additional information about this completion policy is in the facilitator guide and also available. We have a checklist in your task calendar that Bethany is going to provide for you so that you can keep track of everything you have to do. And then we also, the official policy is also reiterated in the facilitator guide and posted in the facilitator lounge. And in general, if you guys aren't sure if you're what you're supposed to do when, just feel free to email us and we'll make sure to guide you in that direction. And I didn't advance my slides, sorry about that. Completion policy, we'll have butterflies at the end. And member follow-up. So member follow-up in the PSO blend, as I mentioned, echoes the idea that if they didn't show up to class in the classic PSO, someone would be knocking on their door. So to this end, we'll now be copying the supervisor, project director, CSO, and the VISTA training coordinator when a member misses an assignment. And guess what? We provided you guys with templates for that. Bethany will talk about that in a second.
Amy, I assume we'll have some sort of spreadsheet or something that includes the supervisor info?
Yeah, and I'll talk about that in just a second. You'll actually be downloading that through your course. So you guys know about this, but I just wanted to reiterate that because you'll need to email people directly, and there's no way to email supervisors who are not part of the blend within the blend system, we have assigned email accounts to everyone through JBS, who is our partner on this project. They're just regular Outlook email accounts. What will happen is that both your Moodle and your WebEx accounts will also be updated or have been updated, and so any email notifications will go into these JBS accounts. So it's basically you have a separate email account now for VistaBlend. You'll use your account username or your new JBS email address to log into Moodle and WebEx. So for example, my WebEx login is Amy Canada, all one word, but if I wanted to log in using my email address, I would use my JBS email address versus my old email address from before. So if you have any issues with that, just email me or call me and I can help you with it. And we did have a little bit of a problem last time. People waited to log into their WebEx accounts until like right before their meetups, and then they had problems getting in. So I would just encourage folks to go in and log into WebEx, test your meeting room, make sure you can get into all these sites ahead of time. And then in general, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, but are y'all still going to email like our regular email addresses that we gave you to start with? Like when you contact us directly? Or would you prefer us to do everything?
No, that's a good question, Katie. So all of our regular business, like contracts and scheduling for PSOs and things, I'll send to your consulting, what I call your consulting address, which is your regular address.
Okay.
I know that some of our facilitators last time created a forwarding rule so that they could get all the stuff that was going to their JBS account into their main account. That's totally up to you guys. There are instructions on the lounge on how to do that. I personally would want to keep it all separate, but it's a stylistic thing for you guys.
Yeah.
So just something to consider. We actually did have to go into someone's JBS account to find an email because we couldn't get in touch with them because they were training, and it was kind of handy for us to be able to go pop into her account and find the tracking of what was happening with that member. Okay, any other questions about those so far? I know, Katie, that you're still trying to get logged in, and I put a call out to Scott to help you with that.
Yeah, I saw Scott has emailed somebody else, I think, about it to get help. And I got on it before. I know it's there and it's active. I'm probably typing one letter wrong in the password or something.
Well, and it should be easy to reset your password, so I'm not sure what's happening there. Great. Any other questions before I transition to Bethany, who's going to go into detail about grading and stuff?
I want to go visit the place in the picture.
Yes, me too. Okay, I'll pass it over to Bethany.
I'm warning you, this is the most riveting part of the presentation right about now. So, try to contain your enthusiasm. Oh, yeah. Sure. Okay.
You got to give yourself more credit. This is one of the pains in the butt for us, so really you're solving a problem for us.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Okay. So along with some of the other changes, this is some of it you might be familiar with, and some of it is new. So I'm going to kind of go through with detail, and then of course there'll be a time for some questions, or just break in since we're kind of a small party here. That's fine to do. So So the VTU will be checking the grade reports right after the deadline. So it's really important to stick to the deadlines. And like Amy said, we do have that checklist that we've created for you. But essentially, it's a really good idea to review and assign the assignments that are due Sunday night by Monday morning. And then after that, you're going to be checking basically daily for any submissions. As Amy mentioned, you'll be emailing the VISTAs about these assignments on that Monday, and those will be copied to everyone we have heard of. So supervisor, project director, state office, and the VTU. And that goes for both missing assignments and missing meetups. You know, these are all kind of treated the same as far as they are required. So, and then also in both cases, the grading is happening on very specific dates by specific times. So in the case of the meetups, they're required to be put into the grader report within 2 hours. So, and then, you know, obviously you're emailing folks right after that. So there's some implications related to the way the grading is happening now that will have some, could potentially have some challenges for you scheduling your outside work or meetings. And you'll have basically several tasks to complete most every day of the week. And you know, I think with 30 students, and Amy can maybe speak to this too, but last time around, I think, you know, for the most part, people quickly figure out that this is something that, you know, because it's being CC'd to many people, and that it's, they learn really quickly that these things are required and that they need to participate. And so, you know, it's not like you're having to send 25 emails to people. It's going to slowly diminish us, I think, as time goes on, and every once in a while there's a couple people who either never show up or don't, you know, they learn really quickly that they need to get on board, and then they don't, you know, you don't actually have to email them again because they're keeping up with assignments. So I don't know, I think this last time around there weren't very many people who actually didn't make it through and didn't quickly get into it. So
yeah, this new policy is definitely helping people get their stuff done, especially if they miss one, like Bethany said, and they're like, oh boy, I better get this in. They just copied my boss and everybody. So it should be a limited number of this back and forth, but for those that need it, it's pretty regimented, I would say.
Yeah. And again, we'll provide some messaging language for the missing assignment emails. And then, you know, as well as for missing assignments and also meetups. So you'll have some language that you can use. And, you know, there's also some guidance around the subject line that we use in the emails, because there's some new stuff that we've implemented around, because you can imagine somebody at the VTU, for instance, maybe getting, depending on how many people are being trained at the time, they may be getting multiple messages. So we're thinking about ways, or kind of refining ways that we can get these to be tracked well, and so there'll be some specific language we'll be requesting you use. But one thing to note too is that with the meetup, this is some recommended stuff we've had to cover some meetups recently, but that one of the best ways to check attendance, because again, this is the hammer's going to come down on people who don't show up, that we recommend that you check the names off on the paper roster, and you know, looking for names as people log in via the participant panel in WebEx, but also you can save your chat transcript, but we have found, at least with the last set of meetups, that it's really the best thing to do is to have a paper that you can check off right there, and then go right to your grade book afterwards and follow up with the people who didn't make it, and then put the grades in, and just kind of keeping in track of stuff. So we're just trying to share a few things as we've learned this last round.
Yeah, and I added that in there because I had to cover a meetup because someone's child was in the emergency room, and they're okay, but it was just much easier to check it off of a paper list as people logged in, and then I didn't have to do a full roll call. I could just say, I'm missing these 3 people, are you here? And then it went really seamlessly. So.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the grading, the ratings. So this is the same grading that we enacted for the fall cohort and then the January cohort. So it's a little bit of a refresher as far as the actual, numbers that you're putting in there. So for any unsubmitted assignments, we want you to leave it at the default, which is that dash. Anything that's completed, then we want you to put a 1 in there, and that means that person's, in good shape. With the default, we just want to, similarly to what we talked about before, is that it avoids the problem with overriding in the gradebook. So the VTU knows that what that means, that the assignment isn't in. They are still asking that you provide some, some explanation, like in particular along the lines of you send an email to the person and CCs everybody, and that person writes you back and says, I've been really sick. I'll get it into you on, by Tuesday at 5 o'clock. So that's the kind of thing you fill in next to the negative. They still have, they still have the dash there that says it's not turned in, but then if there's a little bit of a feedback that you get from them about why it's not turned in or that it's coming, that's the kind of thing that Patrick's team wants to know. So even though there's an email, we're going to try to test that, but even though that there's an email trail where they see that you're sending an email to that person and letting them know that you don't see their assignment and they need to get it in, this is just one way at least they can go back to this report that we have that we'll be giving them on Wednesdays, and they'll see in there any kind of responses that may come back to you as just a reply instead of reply all, or, something that a member emails you about ahead of time. So it just kind of is to provide a little bit more information on that.
Stephanie?
And then, yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. So if we have a Vista that emails us ahead of time and says, I have some sort of on-site thing going on and can't attend the meetup, do we need to email, God and everybody else about that, or can that just go in the gradebook?
That's a great question. So the supervisors have been asked to put down the dates of the meetups on their calendars and not schedule anything for the members during that time period. So if that does happen and someone says, my supervisor has something scheduled during your meetup, let me know and I'll share that with the coordinator, because they may be able to call that supervisor and try to get the student out of whatever it is on site. Because really the SUPs are supposed to be making sure that these folks have time to do their homework during work hours and attend the meetups. That's the idea, but we want to know if there's a disconnect, so just alert me, and that way I can, kind of share that with, this time it'll be Jessica Birch. I can share that with Jessica, and she could decide what she wants to do to help pave the way for that member.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, and we're trying to keep it a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit about the missing assignments, makeup assignments. We're trying not to make it known that there's this makeup assignment, because we really want people to attend. But if there's some kind of, extenuating circumstance, and of course, you can see that there's a lot of people involved, and there's probably going to be a lot of pressure to get those people to come. If it's an emergency and they can't make it, then there's going to be, you'll be letting them know that there's a makeup, and it's not the totally end of the world, but.
Can I ask a question as well? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure.
So in the past, I have sent reminder emails and sort of flag you down emails multiple times for folks for the same assignment. But now that we're CCing everybody, is it like one email and then let the crew handle it? I don't want to bog them down either or annoy folks.
Yeah, it's going to be, let's see,
should we go to that next?
Yeah, let's just go to that next page. Good question. So we have, along with everything, because we like to schedule everything out, we have 2 reminders. So essentially, you'll be sending the reminder on, so the assignments are due on Monday. The person doesn't have it in. You send an email at that time and say, it's not in, and you CC everybody. Then you go back in on Tuesday and you say, I still don't see it there. So then you write that person again. So you have a maximum of 2 things that you're actually sending. If the person gets back to you after that first one and says, I'm going to get it in at 5 o'clock, you don't need to send another email to them and CC everybody. So then after that 48-hour mark, that's when the VISTA training unit folks are technically able to start a deselection process. And so what we would want you to do in that case, though, is if that member gets it in after the 48-hour mark, please let the coordinator know. And that's so for this particular cohort that you guys are going to be training at, it's Jessica Birch, and her email address, which we'll post, is jburch, JBURCH @cns.gov. You guys may have met her over the years as well. So as Amy mentioned, the stakeholder emails are available in your class roster. So we are working with the VTU. You know, obviously, if they want these folks to be included, they need to make sure that all those pieces of information are available. And so that has worked out fine, and we will be continuing doing that. So that should be fine. Let's see, send an email. Yep, we've got templates.
And I'll just say the process, Bethany was probably going to cover this, but since I wrote this section, I'll just jump in. You'll be, basically, your course roster will be kept up to date from within your course. So when you guys get assigned to classes, like normal, I'll send you an Excel document, but that's pretty much going to become obsolete within the next day because people move around. So you'll want to download your roster from your Moodle course, and we've provided instructions for doing that. When you download that roster, it also downloads the supervisor email, the project director email, so that you can email all those people together. What it does not include is Jessica Birch's email address or the email address for the state office. So again, I'll post this with your roster, but it'll be jbirch@cns.gov, and then for the state office emails, it's just the state abbreviation @cns.gov. So for Oregon, I posted it in the chat, or@cns.gov. So those you'll have to hand enter, but supervisor, program director, and member email will all be in your roster.
Yeah, so two follow-ups. If you hear nothing, then VT is going to take it from the 48-hour mark, and then just letting them know when anything comes in, you're sort of, you know, they're going to be looking to you because, as we know, sometimes people, you know, because people are going to be going into the system, uploading their assignments or posting there, and that's not something they're getting notified of, whereas you might, when you're checking daily, you'll be able to notice who's missing something and when they get it up there. So that's good, right? So we also have makeup assignments for the meetups that we mentioned. We're going to ask you to post the slides after your meetup in a PDF format and post it to the forum. And then you'll be, again, CCing the CSO, the VTU, the coordinator, the supervisor, and the project director. I think we need to come up with like some kind of crazy acronym to cover all those people.
I just called it stakeholders, but if we come up with something too good, we might.
Yeah, I was calling it like the supervisory team, but yeah.
I think it should be like a superhero name, like the Avengers or the X-Men.
Yeah, right? The assignment avenges. So you'll be actually sending the assignment in the email. We've got some text for you to use, and just letting them know that they did miss according to your information, they weren't there, and that they have to complete this assignment. We're asking them to respond to the email with their answers to the assignment, and these are just some questions about, related to the VAD and
it's essentially the reflection questions that they're supposed to be answering in the webinar in a written form, but they really don't get as much out of it if they don't attend the webinar. So that's why we're really saying this is required, and you're only able to skip in case of an emergency if they ask ahead of time.
So similarly, the grading for the contact after the meetup is really quick. We'll want you to get into contact with them within a couple hours of your the end of your meetup and enter the grades in there, of course, and as well as emailing the folks who missed. And then if they contact you, we talked about this, if they contact you ahead of time, we do want you to urge them that it's required and that we want to really find out what it is that's holding them back, because we have made an effort to connect with their supervisors beforehand to make sure that they're able to give them the space to attend that, because it's, it's important.
Well, in this last round, we got some really great feedback from members saying that the meetups felt like they really helped personalize the experience. One member in particular wrote to Raphael and said he really felt bonded to his class and to his instructor after the first meetup. So at least for that person and others, it was an engaging experience for them.
Yeah, and I think this has always been the struggle with the online PSO, is wanting to make it something where they feel like this is this is like a a decent experience where they're getting to explore content, but also connect with each other and find some resources, even though they're at a distance. And so a lot of these, that's why the meetups have become really important to kind of help foster that as best we can, knowing that it's not always easy to do. So, and then just sort of the comments we mentioned a little bit, and this is something that we want to have included before those Wednesday reports come out. So, we want you to go in and any information that you learn from people who haven't turned stuff in, or if they're, I think Patrick's team at the VTU is pretty curious about why something is given a 0 and considered incomplete or unacceptable.
Well, and I think that the comment with the 0 rating also helps the supervisor support the member. If it's something that they just don't understand, then the supervisor can, if needed, or whoever can coach them.
Yeah. So, and then just be cognizant that comments, so where you're putting these comments are actually in the assignment page. So when you go into the assignment and you're doing grading, it's essentially the feedback that member gets. So you'll just kind of want to carefully word it and being, and it could be like, thanks for checking in with me about, you being sick and not able to get the assignment in. I'm looking forward to receiving it on Tuesday or whatever they've told you they're going to do. So that kind of thing can be just kind of put in there, and then the VTU will be able to see that as well as the member when you're, it serves kind of a little bit as an extra reminder, I think, so. Yeah, okay.
And
so next steps for March 7th through 13th. So Amy mentioned the video, and there's some more details about that in the facilitator guide. So we'll want you to take a look at the facilitator guide to get that, kind of make sure you cover the things we want you to cover. And, you know, we'll also, as Amy mentioned, we'll get you access to the course, to a sample course, so you can see what it looks like and in what format you'll be receiving assignments. Some are in the forum posts and some are uploaded assignments. You will want to take a look at the Facilitator Lounge, where you can have access to review the Meetup slides, decks. We will have what we're calling the PSO Blend Facilitator Task Calendar, which provides you with all of the grading information, deadlines, the policy document that we mentioned. You know, as you know, that's a resource for you, that Facilitator Lounge, where you can access everything in one place, and so we can give you lots of crap to read, I think. As Amy also mentioned, you'll want to make sure you familiarize yourself with your new email account by logging in, making sure that it works, logging in to your WebEx also.
Which they've already done, essentially, okay. Yeah. Oh, no, did you guys have to type in your login information just now when you logged in? No, you're able to get right in?
No.
Okay, so definitely initiate your own private meeting room at some point to make sure that it's working okay before your meetup.
Yeah, and you know, we tend to not work on the weekends if we can, so if you guys can do this before Friday of next week, we would just totally love it. You'll get much faster service and response time if you can do that. And then you'll be kind of ready to go on March 13th, when you will be sending your email out after the standard webinar provided by the VTU. So similarly to what you've experienced in the past, we'll want you to make contact with people after that webinar has taken place, so that you know, so that there's the focus is then, now you've started your online portion of this, and here's who I am, and we're ready to go. And then as this notes that you'll be allotted 3 hours for this webinar and prep on the Q2, so Q2 work order.
And Indy said that she hasn't put those together yet, but she'll be putting those together soon. So just be sure to charge your 3 hours at some point so you don't miss those extra bucks.
So I know it's a lot that we've given to you, but I think there is some sense of familiarity, at least with some pieces of this, and then it's just going to be an adjustment to the new stuff.